Live, blah 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 blah. We is live, 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 live. I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing that, but
Yes, nothing wrong with that. It's I'm happy to be alive, so yay! Hooray for
yeah.
life.
Hooray for live! All right.
Yeah.
So here's what we're gonna do, right? I'm gonna do the little video thing that we do and stuff. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In this is terrible. This is really terrible. Ugh.
That's okay.
This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast, a binge watcher's guide to streaming movies, TV series, and stuff. Here are your hosts, Graham and Jocelyn. This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast, a binge watcher's guide to streaming.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kicking and Streaming Podcast. My name is Graham, and with me today is the fantastic Jojo. Jojo, I don't know if we should talk about it, HIPAA or whatever, because we are essentially healthcare workers. But shall we though?
I'm fine with it. I don't mind.
So Jojo has had some tough days because her second dose of the vaccine did a number on her. Jojo, do you want to tell us?
It knocked me on my ass, which, from what I understand, is a good thing. And I have to say, I'm feeling great today. But I had a little bit of a longer reaction than most people have. I had 2 very bad days, and I had 1 extremely bad day. So together, 2 bad days, and I missed one of our lives, and for that I am forever ashamed. But I'm here now, and I'm alive, and I'm happy, and I have joy to vivre. So there you go.
No, Jojo, you're good. You're good. Like seriously, nobody's mad at you. And that first live that we did was exclusively on Twitch and on YouTube. And here's the crazy thing: for the first 10 minutes or so, I was live, and nobody could hear me.
Oh
And so a couple of watchers, a couple of people watching on Twitch actually started messaging like, "Hey man, we can't hear you."
no!
you
Well,
know,
that was nice of them. Thank you, users and viewers. That was kind.
like we can't hear you and stuff. And I started to figure it out, and it took me a while. And when I finally got started, right, eh, at about minute 38, everything stopped,
Oh,
and I didn't even realize that, right? So at the end of the day, that which was sort of like a test for me, would have been a test for us at least with Twitch. But I never figured out why everything got disconnected and basically the live stream stopped. But you know, I wasn't monitoring. Today I'm monitoring, so we're good.
well, that's good. I'm sorry that happened, but we're monitoring now, so hopefully it won't happen again. And yeah, when you told me that you had a certain number of viewers and a certain number of subscribers, I was like, well, damn, he does way better without me than he does with me. So
Yeah, no,
maybe
that's not.
maybe I just hold up a little cardboard cutout, and so nobody sees my face or something. I
Don't
don't know.
get used to doing. No, don't get used to that. Because like, I was at there were some things that I was saying. I needed somebody to back me up, and I had nothing. Had nothing. Yeah. So that's the kind of day I was having. So it was rough. It was rough, but like it was a good experience. And come to find out that actually the subscriber that joined us on that the one subscriber that we gained was actually my son. So,
Well, that's well. Thank you, Graham's son, whose name I will not say because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to or not. But thank you, Graham's son. You're a lovely person. I love
as
you
long as
very
you say
much.
Marcus, he's cool.
Okay, Marcus.
Just to,
Thank you,
to
Marcus.
the outside world, he's Marcus,
Thank you,
which is
Marcus.
actually his first name. So I guess that's a thing. I'll just say that's his first name for real. But you know, we never called him his first name. But to the outside world, he's Marcus.
Marcus. Yes.
I guess at the end of the day, that sounds better. All right. So today, Jojo, we are going to talk about this little movie called The White Tiger.
Yes.
And we always like talking about, movies that were taken out of, turned into movies from a book. I have to say, this is one book that I didn't know of, but I love the story of Ramin Bahrani and his friend who decided they made in NYU School of Cinema, if that's a thing, yeah,
I
School
think
of
so.
Filmmaking or whatever.
Yeah.
And there were two Indian dudes, and they're like, "Yo, we should do something together," and that was their dream or whatever, right? But then they went their separate ways. One went to work on TV, the other one went to work. One went to Hollywood, and the other one went elsewhere. But they were both actively working until they came upon this book and decided we're gonna do this. And this is a very good movie, you know.
It really is. I love the story that I was not aware of that you told me about how they kind of went their separate ways and then eventually came back together to make this movie. I love that, when people either keep in touch or they meet again and it's like the old fire, is ignited and they're like, yes, let's make this project happen. We're in a place now in our lives that we can. And I think that's awesome. So I have to say that I don't feel the trailer did this movie any justice,
You're
personally.
absolutely right.
So if our viewers out there have seen the trailer and been like, just forget you watched the trailer. In my opinion, just forget it doesn't exist. The trailer doesn't exist, just in my opinion, because from what I watched in the trailer, it has very little to do with the actual movie that I watched.
That happens a lot, but precisely with this movie, that was the case. They really didn't. It really didn't find a way to put this movie into context for you. But at the
No.
same time, the topic of this movie is something that, if you put it in a trailer, maybe it would be hard to sell to the American public, because not a lot of people understand the caste system in India, the system of servitude and all of that, to an extent that just a couple of minutes of a trailer would make it make sense for you. So I don't know if I'm just making an assumption here, but I think that might well be the case.
Yeah, I think though, in the hands of a better editor, in the hands of someone who is a little more familiar with the subject, um, perhaps someone who was Indian and living in America and had lived in America and knew. I just feel that a better job could have been done to it, because I do feel that the trailer was a complete disservice, because in watching the trailer, I had absolutely no interest in this movie.
Like,
I'm like,
what
that
am I
looks
watching here?
stupid. Like, genuinely, this looks dumb. Like, this does not look like anything I would enjoy at all. But the movie itself is, I mean, it breaks your heart. It takes you on a whole
Yes.
roller coaster. It grabs you from the moment you start watching it. I'm mad at the trailer, because there are people that are skipping this movie, that should watch this movie, because you're going to learn a lot that you don't know, but it's not going to feel like a lesson when you learn it. It's going to feel like, holy shit, this is happening in the world right now.
Yes.
And
And
Holy
this is
shit.
normal life
This is normal
yeah,
life.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think now we put it on your shoulder to make it make sense to us before we go ahead and discuss it, right? So
uh,
uh, you're mad at the trailer. Let us not get mad at you. No pressure.
oh, no pressure. Wow, that's so the movie is about a young man who is uh I'll go with the poorest of the poor that you can think of. Um and he has dreams of a bigger, better life, which entails something different than the American dream. Uh, his dream is to become, well, he wants to be educated. He wants lots of things that don't end up happening for him, but what he sees as a way out of his complete and absolute poverty is to become what is essentially a slave to a rich family in Delhi, in India. And he achieves that dream through hard work. He also achieves it through some very bad deeds that he does. Um, he is a very complex and very interesting character. And we get to see his journey of all of that happening. And then there is an event that happens that changes everything. And it's the kind of thing that is so possible in the sense of life just happening and you think everything's going fine and then bam, it's not. And this leads to a cascade of events that eventually ends with him having, through great cost, sort of more of what he's ever wanted, or more than he had ever originally dreamed that he could possibly have. And I think the story of this is so beautifully told, and it just really, it wraps you in and takes you in and helps you understand the plight of the the caste system, and um the conflicts between different ways of life and different thoughts of life. I loved this movie. I really loved this movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the book The White Tiger now more than ever because again I didn't know much about the book. It was a New York Times bestseller, but it escaped me for some reason. And also with this movie, I'm pretty sure that the movie obviously tried and to compress all of the content of the book into a 2 hour a 2 hour 5 minute movie,
Yes.
which is an absolutely fantastic movie. But I'm pretty sure that the book goes a bit beyond that, and gives you a rather a greater explanation of things, put things perhaps more into context than the movie can ever do. Um, but your summary of it, Jojo, is absolutely on point. It is for me. It is one an indictment of the caste system, to begin with, which, crazy as it sounds, the majority of Indians who make it, for instance, to out of India and to in migrate to the United States, in England and some other parts of Europe, are folks that actually uh, make it make it out of the oppression of the caste system.
Yes.
And that explains the drive to to get to the highest echelon possible as a professional, as a person, and the whole thing. But the
Yes.
the thing about it is that because this is a system, the one system that has been ingrained in your mind, it is hard to break away from it, even as an immigrant, right? I remember about 2 months ago, I heard a report in on a radio show about a guy in Silicon Valley who actually is suing the company he works for because because his life has been made horrible by Indians of higher caste within his department.
Oh my goodness.
Within the department that he works, he says, the more I arrived there and everybody received me with open arms until they figured out my caste.
Oh
The
my
moment they
goodness.
figured out my caste, then they started to bully me. They started to treat me like trash, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole caste thing even bleeds into the Indian immigrant community in the United States. So there's that. For me, this movie is an indictment on that system, uh,
Yes.
an
Yes.
indictment of this system. But at the same time, it tells you a story of someone who the complexity of servitude, the complexities of that relationship between master and slave, slave and master. And there are two analogies there that uh, Balram makes that for me are perfect. The one is when he says, do we loathe our masters under the guise of love, or do we love our masters under the guise of love? That's the number one analogy here. That's the number one rhetorical question for me that is posed, and it makes you take a step back and want to actually figure this one out. And
Yeah.
also the analogy of the chicken coop, the rooster coop.
The rooster coop. Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So what did what did you take on that, Jojo?
The rooster coop analogy really, really, really hit home for me. I I grew up around chickens. But so in the literal sense of chickens, he's completely right. They know what's going to happen,
Yeah,
and they don't do anything about it. Eh, because they don't think they can. I mean, and
yeah,
you can say that's just because they're chickens and they have brains that are about this big, but that's not the point of what it is. The point is, if this is ingrained in you, if you are told over and over again that you are absolutely not worthy, that you will never be worthy, that there's nothing you can do to change the way your life is, the way you are, that you are dirty, that you are implicitly and deeply inside your genes a bad person because of
right.
where you were born or how you were born, you're never going to rebel against that, because what in the world is the point? You were born bad,
And
so
that's all you know.
that's all you
That's all
know,
you
right?
know.
You
Right.
and the idea of that being wrong is so difficult for anybody to embrace, because everybody around you believes that as well, and will happily demonstrate it to you if they believe they're higher than you are.
Exactly.
And your family members who also believe it too are going to ingrain it into you that we don't do that because we aren't good enough to do that. You're not good enough to do that. None of us are good enough to do that. And I really I was very, that one kind of hit me like a, I don't know, like a train or something. The thought of that, because the caste system is so horrible, and it's you see it in India. Of course, it actually has a name.
Right.
But you also see it in other countries where it, if it's, if you're born in this neighborhood, oh, you're a piece of junk and you're never going to be anything but what you are. Or, if you have this accent, then you're obviously stupid. Or, if you're, if you dress a certain way, or if you weigh a certain amount, there's always prejudices and things like that. And again, I'm not necessarily comparing that to the caste system in the horrible way it is in India and the very, very, divisive way it is in
Right.
India, but just in the sense of, to a lesser degree, we can see that everywhere. And I think that India is a very extreme example of that. And that just, it hurts my heart.
No, Jojo, but like, here's the crazy thing. The comparison you're making actually makes perfect sense, and it's not an exaggeration. You will remember when we did our episode on the all the movies that one could watch to learn about the Black experience and Black Lives Matter and all of that. I mentioned a book from an author called Isabel Wilkerson
Yes.
called Caste.
Yes.
And Isabel Wilkerson proposes in this book that the one way to learn to understand the root of racism is that when we talk about white supremacy and when we talk about racism, people will always take it as an insult because in their minds, a racist person is a bad person.
Yes.
And people tend to think of themselves as good people. So if I'm a good person, I cannot possibly be racist,
Right.
right? And so the term racist in and of itself has become has become a bad thing, and it is, of course, it is a bad thing.
Yes.
But when explained in within the context of caste, right? People will understand where we're going with that explanation, because at the end of the day, it is a question of class. It is a bunch of people who think of themselves better of as better than the other race of people because that they are craving to be in a class of their own.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that one, the class separation is by color of skin, right? But it is a caste system, and it
Yes.
is unacceptable. It is horrible.
Yes.
And so the comparison, as I was saying, that you've made is not necessarily an exaggeration. You are right to view it and to see it that way, because in that same sense, in every country where there was colonialism, that includes India, that includes all the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, in every country where you had colonialism, you may not have flat out racism because to a certain extent you don't have those countries are not majority white people, but you have colorism, which is the the little brother of racism,
Yes.
right? So you have people who will look at you and respect you or not respect you based on the lightness or the gravity of your darkness, right? And it is ingrained in people even within their own family. You will see that there are families in Latin America and the Caribbean where they will treat one side of the family one way and the other side of the family one way, and you can see that even in the abuelas and the grandmas. You know what I mean? Like the little grandkids, if they are light enough, they are well beloved and get everything they want, and the ones that are a bit darker, they're loved too, but you can see that there is a bit of a difference. So all of these things are real. You know what I mean? um but this book exposes it in a way that is absolutely riveting, and I think the screenplaying of this movie has done absolute justice to it.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I agree that it shows it from, as you were saying, a racial view, and then the socioeconomic view as well. That, someone who is viewed as a low caste is never going to be able to reach the upper echelons of the social, the economic. They're never going to be rich, probably.
Right.
Um, and this we see this in in this country with color or with education or with where you come from, and it's just I think it just applies so much in everything that we do and that we see, that prejudices are so deeply ingrained in us as human beings. And I think that this movie really helps educate us about how we feel about other people, without even realizing it. And I think the movie does it in such a non-preachy way that,
Yes.
that you don't even realize it maybe until after the movie's over.
It
You're
just
like,
put the
"Well,
facts
shit."
there. It just puts the facts
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not a preachy movie in the slightest. It really isn't. It's just, this is my story. This is what happened to me and how I got to where I am, and the good things and the bad things, and this is the way life is here. And it was just, it's a phenomenal movie.
And I listened to an interview that on NPR with Adarsh Gurav, the actor who plays Balram, and Ramin Bahrani also was on the interview, and they were talking about how they went about casting this movie. And Rahmin was saying that a lot of very famous Bollywood actors and some people in Hollywood came to him and wanted a piece of that pie. And he's like, no, I'm looking for somebody who is closer to the experiences of this character. And Adarsh Gurav was first of all, he slated on his the the casting call. What do you call that? The audition,
Audition. Yeah.
right? And they filmed the movie at the height of the pandemic in
Okay.
India,
Okay.
right? And so there was a lot of it was a dangerous situation, to tell you the truth. And he said that Adarsh Gurav was so good at playing this character, he meshed into the markets where he went, that no one even suspected that he was an actor filming a movie. And there's an anecdote where there was a big truck there were a few people in the market, porters just loading stuff onto the truck, and Adarsh Gurav went and joined them in character. And then some men started shouting orders at him. Yo, 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 do this, put that there. And no one suspected that he was an actor doing this. And that's how easy it is to get lost in a society. No matter who you are, that is how easy it is to get lost in a society where you only something based on where you're from, what you look like, and what kind of caste or place in society you come from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That had to be, I wonder how that felt for him, I wonder if that was, "Oh, I'm doing a really great job as an actor," or if it was, totally depressing or kind of a mixture of the 2 feelings, like, I'm acting really well, this is a good job, but goddamn.
yeah. I think it's probably the first one. To him, it was, yeah. I'm selling it, man. I'm doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Uh, all right. So it's like one of my dogs is doing a little barking there. So let me go figure out what's going on, Jojo. Give me just a moment.
Okay,
Uh,
alright.
all right.
Surprised it's not mine. Me and my tiny terrors. It's usually mine. Graham usually has to do a lot of editing, so but, let's hope they stay quiet today, because Lord only knows with them when they'll start up, but they're a lot of fun, so I don't know if I should do a song and dance or what. I'm not very good at dancing, and I'm not particularly good at singing, so sorry, folks. I can talk about movies. That's about it. Graham will get back and come and sit down, and then mine will start up, and then we can trade off. It'll be fun. But I am looking forward to reading the book about this movie. I have not read it. I'm not sure if I was aware of it or not. If anybody out there has read the book, I would be curious to hear what you think of the differences. If you think the book did a good job or a bad job, or I'm sorry, the movie. You back?
Yes, I'm back.
Welcome back.
They just wanted a treat or something.
Oh yeah.
So, Jojo, the other thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to the cast, this is not going to be a very long one, but um, I remember reading this book. I've got a book here. When I first moved to the US, I bought this book. I went to Barnes and Nobles, and I was looking for some, Black experience books. I was at the time I was like so big on Maya Angelou because I actually discovered Maya Angelou before moving to the US, but I wanted to have as many books of her as possible. And so within doing that research, I found some more books from different authors. And I bought this book called "I Was Born a Slave," and this book is a compilation of books and stories written by former slaves right after the Revolutionary War. And these people, there was one thing they all had in common is that somehow, while being slave, they managed to get an education, they managed to get literate, and they understood the value of education, that even if it cost them their lives, they would try and learn to read and write, which came in handy because then after the after emancipation, they became like the journalists and the the ones to start newspapers and things like that, and went on to do great things. But one of the authors, and I can't remember who, he was very against an argument that some pro-slavery people used to make before emancipation. And it was and these people were very well intentioned in the sense that, like, well, I'm not necessarily pro slavery, but I don't have a problem against slavery as long as the masters practice mild slavery. And what they meant by that was give your slaves a good place to live, feed them right, don't beat them up, and let them practice a Christian religion, right? Educate them to be good Christians.
Okay.
And the author was making an argument like, listen to me, as long as the term slavery is involved in it, there is no mild. Slavery
Yeah.
is bad. Simple
Yeah.
as that. Is bad.
Yeah.
And one of the things we see in this movie is that there is this touch of like, this person treats me a bit more humanely, therefore I should be grateful. And he or she cannot be compared to the other masters because of course they're good to me. The problem is that, you know, anybody who tells you, I don't like the way you're being treated, I'm going to treat you better, expects you to still know your place.
Yes. Yes.
And the moment
Very
that they
much
have
so.
you to put you in your place, they will do so.
Yes.
And we
Very
see
much
that
so.
in this movie, right?
Yes.
Ashok was supposed to be the civilized one. And I'm not by any means saying that, coming to study in the United States makes you more civilized. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that this is the guy who had a completely different view on what this whole system was all about, for the love of God.
Well, he had kind of a more, I guess, cosmopolitan view, if you will. Like he had left and had seen how things went in other countries, which it didn't really seem to be that case for his father and his other brothers. Um, and he married a woman who was Indian, but not um, had not been raised in India. So, I mean, yes, you could certainly argue that he was a better slave master, if you will. But he was still a slave master. He was still an owner of someone. And so that's the kind of thing where you get into the slippery territory of, you know, well, I'm a good slave master, and then you get into the slippery territory of, well, that person's only a little bit racist. And I mean, I think human beings, the way we are, and as imperfect and we are as we are, and the different things that we are raised, either in what we learn from our families or in what we see in our environment or what we're taught in our environment, all of us are a little bit racist. I would argue that. But that doesn't mean it's right, and that doesn't mean it's good, and that doesn't mean that we should not be trying to change ourselves and make ourselves better all the time. I was just saying that even though the brother was a kinder,
Yeah.
gentler slave master, he was still a slave master.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you can see that in the way that they immediately knew what to do when trouble arrived.
Yes.
Is that I'm not going to get in trouble
Yes.
if I can buy you to during the Revolutionary War, there were slave masters who didn't want their children to go to war, and they offered up their own slaves to go fight that war.
Yeah, they
Right.
did.
So that's basically the same thing here. Is that, yeah, what I did was bad, and I feel terrible about that, but I don't think I should go to jail for that.
Right.
So since I got you and I own you, you're gonna be a good boy and do it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was that, man, and this is the crucial moment of this movie to me, and it shows you, like, no matter how well you are treated, the one person who has the power over you, that who thinks of themselves as superior to you, even when they're not going around telling you that, it will come a moment where they will tell you, they will show you that you have a place, that you need to stay in your place. And I try to explain that to people all the time. Is that, let me ask you a question. You you think of yourself as a non-racist person. That's perfectly fine. Um, yeah, actually, yeah, it is a civil war. I don't know why I keep saying Revolutionary War, uh, but that's perfectly fine. But aren't there instances? Don't you find instances in which you find yourself more overly insulted than not, depending on the person's race who disrespected you?
Hmm.
You know, that's the way.
Hmm.
That's the way it is. That's the way it is. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So that's the point here. Is that if you cannot control yourself and understand, maybe I'm overreacting here. Maybe this is my responsibility, and there's no reason why I should think that it's fine to use this person as a sacrificial lamb so that I don't get in trouble,
Right.
then
Right.
you were never good.
Right.
You were
Right.
just a poser. Innit?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. If I can, and it can be something, much less, with much less dire consequences than was shown in the movie. Um, it can be something as simple as, well, I can push this thing that I didn't do right off on this other person here, and it'll be fine because they're black or they're brown or they're yellow or whatever, and it's gonna be it'll be all right. It'll be
Yeah.
fine because I can do that way. I can be like, "Oh, that wasn't me, that was her," and you'll probably be believed. And I mean, maybe your conscience is okay with that, but that doesn't mean that it is okay. We have to work on retraining our consciences and thinking about things. And um, you know, if you've done something like that in the past, and you you may not be able to make retribution for it for what you did in the past, but you can certainly change every action that you have in the future. And if it is possible for you to make retribution, then go right ahead.
I think you're right, Jojo. Uh, that's all that like it, we always have an opportunity in life to go back and do the right thing. That doesn't mean that all is forgotten and forgiven.
No,
But
no, no, no.
righting our wrongs is shouldn't be, you know, um before I die I'm going to donate everything I own to build another university wing or a library that will port my name. That's bullshit.
I agree. I agree. I completely agree. No.
um yeah, so let's go on and talk a bit about the cast.
Yeah.
um it's amazing that for the second time in a row I find myself talking about Priyanka. I know last week I said that, there were times that she was mad annoying to me and shit. And like I hope you all understand that I didn't mean that in a mean way. Like I wasn't being mean toward Priyanka or whatever. It's just like, you know, it's the whole Nick Jonas thing, I guess that like so lovey dovey and shit. Shut
Well,
up.
I can say that Tom Cruise, I am not a fan of Tom Cruise. I don't He drives me up the wall and I don't like him, but I wish him no badness or anything in his life. I hope he leads a wonderful and happy life, and but you're allowed to be irritated at people, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Like I mean, I can watch her movies and stuff, and I can watch. You know, I mean, I had to sit and watch that FBI show that she was on and whatever. It was my wife loves her and shit. But you know, um, I have to say, I think I've found myself becoming a bit more of a fan on this one. I
She
like Pinky.
Yeah, yeah. Pinky was good. I liked Pinky a lot.
I like Pinky because um and I know that the instinct here is to give the character of Pinky credit because of her uh her kindness towards Balram is because she's American educated or whatever. I think, you know yes, half of the credit could be given in that respect, but I think she was genuinely a kinder person than 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 all of them, including the husband.
I
That's
I
pure and simple.
Yeah, I agree that she was kinder. I also think that based on the story that she told, it sounded as though her parents came to America because they were lower caste.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so she had, even though, and she was 12 when she moved to the
Right.
United States. So
Right.
she
So
was
she was conscious of these
she
things. She?
she knew what was going on. She would have those memories, and she knew how hard her parents worked. So I think that she had a great perspective on what his life was like. Not 100% because she did get to enjoy some better things. But I think that too was what spurred some of her anger and her protectiveness of him, because she was like, no, I know what this shit is like, and you're
Yeah.
not doing this. You're not doing this. No, that could be me. That could be me. If my parents had taken a different route, that could be me.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, if you look at the way she was like when she tells the story, she knew that not only that could be her, but again, there are hundreds of millions of people because
Yes.
India has what 1.5 billion people.
Yes, a lot.
It's an
A lot of people.
incredibly large country, and I don't think there is a 50, there is not a 50% of the two castes. It's just the minority is the higher caste and the majority is of the lower caste. So
I
there
I
are a lot of those people that are destined to servitude in that horrible life, isn't it?
Yes, and in the movie, he makes use of the statistics of 999 and then the other 0.1%. And
Yeah.
I actually absolutely believe that, because of I have no problem with that statistic.
Right,
Because
because look, caste is about who has power and who's not, who
yes.
doesn't, right? And
Yes.
so, of course, the power always belongs to a minority.
Yes.
You cannot, by any means, believe that when there is a caste system, the ones who own the most, the ones who have the most, the ones who are the most powerful are in the majority. That's not the way that shit works ever. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, it is you know, it's easy to believe that when she left India at 12 and moved to America, she had an idea of, okay, this is escaping from something that is far greater of a horrible system than I imagine, because now she can compare the two. She would have been able to compare the two things. I
Yeah.
also like the fact that she stood up to these people, um, and she understood very early on, like, I may love this dude, but this is his thing,
Yeah.
and I'm out. you know.
Yes. Yes, when there was a scene that happened and she was standing there and she was like, "In all of this,
Yeah,
I'm done." I was like, "Yep,
there you go, girl.
yep, get it. Get your suitcase, go."
Get the fuck out.
Yep. Yep.
I, I like the fact that she produced this movie too.
Yes, that
Uh,
was very cool. Very, very cool.
so the whole, Ramin Bahrani saying that, yo, I didn't want big Hollywood in this. Well, when she's your buzzer, you're gonna have to let her do her thing. Like, yeah, I didn't want big Hollywood to be in this movie, but I mean, you're big Hollywood and you are paying for this, so yeah, you can, you can be in it.
Well, I think she turned in a great performance, and
Yes, she did.
I don't I think I think it was a good choice to have her involved.
Yes. Here's a guy who I think has a future in this thing, and is Adarsh Gurav. This is obviously not his first rodeo, right? He's been on some things, but man, this is a good little actor right there. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
he like there are so many things of him that reminds me of Dev Patel, and I don't know why, but like I remember he reminded me of Dev Patel, what Dev Patel looked like when he did Slumdog Millionaire.
Mhm.
Because now Dev Patel looks like the English-born Pakistani Indian that you expect him to look like. You know what I mean? But when he did when he did Slumdog Millionaire, he looked exactly like Adarsh Gurav on this one. But this kid has been on a couple of big things. He was on a Netflix one called My Name Is Khan.
I missed that one.
Yeah. And so he's been around. He's only 26 years old, but we can see stuff he's done as early as 2010. Um, so we have My Name is Khan, Madly, Layla, Ruch, and Hostel Days.
Yeah, I've missed all of those somehow. I don't know how.
And he has been nominated for Independent Spirit Award for Best Male Lead, and I don't know if that's for this recent movie or what. Um, this Rajkummar Rao, the guy that plays Ashok, he looks familiar to me, but I have no idea who he is.
He looked familiar to me as well, and I was trying to figure out if he had been in. I was trying to figure out what he'd been in that I've seen, and I never was able to figure it out. So I don't know what he was in that I saw.
Yeah, I have the same issue with him. Like
I
wait a
was
minute, I know this dude.
I was thinking that maybe he was in the lunchbox, is what I was thinking, but he wasn't. So I don't know who I thought he looks like, but
But it seems like he's more of a Bollywood dude actually than he than international films.
he sort of had that persona, if that's right to say. Like he seemed like a more um I don't know, like more cosmopolitan, more fly, a little more
Mhm.
flash than
Yeah.
the rest of the cast, which I think he was supposed to be that way,
Right.
but he also sort of just exuded that. It felt naturally, but maybe he's just a fabulous actor. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I ain't gonna lie. He was alright. Um, but there's somebody who was listed there that I can't for the life of me remember who she played. Perry Capernaros. Uh, what? Who was she?
What was the name of her character? Oh, you don't know.
It doesn't say. It doesn't say the character. It just
Perry
says Perry
Capernaros.
Capernaros, and she's like one of the top four. But I don't know
Yeah, it just says
who the hell she
uncredited.
played.
It just says uncredited. I don't know. I don't remember seeing her,
What?
so I don't know.
Okay. Uh, this guy Nalnish Neil, his character is named Vitiligo. He was a fast talker, and somehow for me, I found him scary.
I found him very scary too.
Yeah,
I
like every
did.
time
I
he
did. He was.
interacted with Balram, I'm like, he's gonna do something to this kid.
I know. Every time there was a lot of tension there, and I was like,
Yes.
"Oh God, something bad's gonna go down." Like I don't know what the something bad's gonna be, but it's gonna be something bad. But
I like when in the narration, Balram said, I tilted myself back away from his face as far as I could.
I liked that too. It was so descriptive because
Yes.
I've done that with people myself. Like,
Like, why are you coming closer, Ben?
I need air.
That's funny. But I mean, yeah, this dude has done a couple of things, but he's mainly Bollywood too. ill smoking barrels, bull bulaya, and apparently he's slated to be in another movie called Bore now in 2021.
Hmm.
I wonder if the vitiligo thing is real. Doesn't look like it. Oh yeah, it does. Is it?
I don't have any pictures of him, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
IMDb is just giving me pictures from the White Tiger, so.
Oh yeah, he does have it. He does. All right. So who else caught your attention here on on this one? The brother, right? The mongoose.
The mongoose and the father both caught my attention. The father a little more so than the mongoose, because the actors were both fabulous, but the character of the father I thought was a little more interesting than the character of the son, the mongoose, because I felt like the mongoose was the sort of like the typical
The
son who
muscle.
the muscle, not so much with the brains, who always has
Yeah.
something to prove to daddy and is never
Yeah.
dad's favorite, and it's the
Yeah.
other
The
one's always.
brute.
Yes, exactly. His character felt a little typical to me. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Movies
Right.
are filled with those, but I thought the father was interesting because I couldn't figure out his story really. Like,
Yeah. The whole idea of the stork.
yeah,
And I know but the actor had this character like pretty down pack. Like he knew his thing, his comportment, his behavior. You know, um, the he looked at everyone else with a certain amount of contempt that made him absolutely perfect. Like,
yes,
okay, this guy definitely thinks of himself as something else, and
yes.
no, everybody is beneath him,
Yes, including his children, and
including his children.
including his children. I felt that he felt. It seemed to me that he felt that he was the greatest person on earth.
Yeah, his name is Mahesh Manjrekar, and the mongoose was played by Vijay Moria, and my dude has been in some stuff. In 2014, he was on Black Friday. 2016, he was on photocopy. All of this, like, I mean, they really cast some local actors in this one, and that makes it better, definitely. If I saw a bunch of like American born actors of Indian descent um, trying to portray this life, I was like, yeah, not you right there. What did you think of Granny? Yeah.
She was one tough lady.
Granny was tough and she was a freaking hustler, but her hustle was like pimping her family and shit,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly,
It-
exactly. She was all in the story where he's like, she married off his brother
yeah.
and gave him 2 weeks, and then he stuck forever. I was like, oh god.
Yeah. You got 2 weeks, dude. Come back, and then and then she worked the son to death. Like Balram's father died of tuberculosis, and
Yeah.
and still he was working. you know.
Still he was working. And I found the line to be so sad and so true, which was the politics did not bring a doctor to my village. So we had to travel 2 days to another village to a hospital, and a doctor still never came.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, it it was very because it wasn't the wording of that politics or politicians did not bring a hospital to my village, and I was like, "Oh man, that's powerful right there,"
Yeah.
because it's so true and something that we really probably don't think about very much in terms of how people get health care in these kinds of countries, or really any country. But the idea of it, you know, that village isn't important enough to get a doctor.
Right, right. I also like the fact that they show you the exchange of money, the idea of paying people off, politicians off, just so, you know, it's best that I pay off somebody instead of paying taxes, which is why you don't see any progress.
Yes.
And if you bring this in context into the United States, is while you may not have a flat out exchange of money, that quid pro quo, in the sense of like, I'll make you rich as a politician, but in America is about, I'll keep you in power.
Yeah.
So while I cannot give you directly money because the money can be traced, you get in trouble, I get in trouble, but I'll buy you as many elections as you want to win. And if
Yeah.
your idea is to be a senator or a representative or a whatever it is that you want to be, because you like to have the power and the glory and the adulation, then we'll pay for your election. You know.
Yes.
So the corruption, it's funny how naive we can be in America about our politics. You know what I mean? Like, wow, that doesn't happen in America. You know what I mean?
It's just a little more sneaky here, but it's exactly the same. I mean, when it comes
Is
down
it?
to it, it is exactly the same. It's just a little more clandestine, a little sneakier,
Yeah,
a little less honest, actually, if you want
yeah,
to
it
put it
is.
that way.
It's less transparent, isn't
Yeah, yeah.
it?
And we have the, if you want to call it, the 1% here that are trying to do their best to have the systems that India and other countries have, wherein
Yeah.
we can just have this mill of people working for us who will consistently make us money and make us rich. And we are going to do everything we can to keep these people from ever being anything but a cog in our wheel.
Jocelyn, if you want to actually see the direct correlation of indentureship, of servitude, um, the way that it exists in India versus in America, all you have to go is into a restaurant. Go into the service industry, and you will understand that the restaurant owners association, which is not no, it's just a lobby under the guise of restaurant owners association, created legislation that forever and ever, right, a waiter or a waitress cannot make any more than $2 and some changes, and the bulk of their earning has to be through tip. And by the way, tip tipping is um is not is not the way things were. Tipping became a thing in the United States. If you want to know what I'm talking about, tipping became a thing in the United States right after emancipation. Right after emancipation. As a matter of fact, I have this recommendation for our listeners. There is a podcast, and I've talked about this podcast before. There's an NPR podcast called Through Line, right? It is conducted by Rond Abdel Fattah and Ramtin Arablouei. These are two of the most skilled young journalists I've ever known in my life. And this week, especially this week, they have an episode about tipping in America. If you want to hear the history of tipping and how it is rooted in white supremacy, in racism, in slavery, listen to that podcast episode. Go and find yourself this podcast. It's called. It's weird that as a podcaster, I'm recommending other podcasts. It's weird.
Not at all. Not at all. We're a community.
Exactly. But listen to this podcast. It's called Through Line on NPR. So find it and listen to it. And there's another podcast when we were talking about the money exchange, how it works in the United States versus how it works elsewhere between politicians and like the bribing and stuff.
Yes.
If it weren't because of the FBI and because of some very intrepid prosecutors in the United States during the 1960s, the exchange of money between powerful rich people and politicians would have been as clear as you saw it in this movie here in the United States too, because there was a vice president called Spiro Agnew who actually resigned in disgrace because of something like that. And I have a podcast for you about this, and it was done by my the one woman the one woman that I listen to and watch religiously every day, Rachel Maddow. The podcast is called Bagman, and I mean, I think she should win some kind of like high award for this one because she went in and she gives you all. And if somebody knows how to put things into perspective for you without any agenda, is Rachel Maddow. So listen to Bagman if you want to learn more about how money in politics became something a bit more refined than the way that it is just brutally exchanged between hands. And if you want to learn more about tipping in America, then also check out Throughline from NPR. Jojo, what do you give this movie in terms of stars?
Are we doing 4 or 5? I can never remember.
Let's do 5, and you tell me what you got.
I think 4 3/4.
4 3/4. That's high marks from you there. I didn't even lie. Also, this movie is Academy Award nominated. I don't remember what is it nominated for?
Oh dear. I should have had that looked up in my memory or something, but I didn't.
I don't remember either, but it has a nomination, and I think whatever it is very well deserved. So we highly recommend this movie, don't we?
Yeah, we definitely recommend it. Absolutely. And it is nominated for Best Screenplay.
Best Screenplay.
Yeah.
It deserves it.
Yeah.
And we know that because it's nominated right next to the trial of the Chicago 7 and this and that, it's just going to stay as a nomination. It would be a really big surprise if it ends up winning. But I think it deserved to be nominated.
Certainly. I think it deserved more nominations. Honestly, I think the lead actor did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
I and even like set design and that sort of thing, because it really brought you the feel of the time, because it was 2003, I believe, in India when it took place.
Yeah.
And then when he's telling the story is years later. So because she had a flip phone and that kind of thing. So I think even there would have been a chance.
Yeah, I mean, you know that it's been some years when the car of the time was a Mitsubishi Pajero. Yeah, that was the fleet of cars for Haitian functionaries at the time during the Haiti dictatorship of Jean-Claude Duvalier.
That's
So
interesting. Why would that be a choice? Like, why would
yeah,
that be the
that
primo car?
that was a luxury car at the
That was
time.
okay.
I mean, the Mitsubishi Pajero, um, even though it was in 2003 in India, but this Mitsubishi Pajero has been around, I think, since 1980, mid 1980s.
Okay.
And yeah, man, if you had a Pajero in Haiti, you were a big man.
Um,
People never referred to their cars. When people who had Pajeros never referred to their cars, like go bring the Pajero around. So I don't know why I'm ranting about Pajero, but whatever, dude.
I'm gonna start telling myself that. Go bring the Toyota around. Me.
Hey, hey, you know what? That's the way my wife speaks now. My wife be like, Uh, I don't know. Today is a Jaguar day for me. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you bougie, aren't you? Yeah, it's raining. Oh, so it's gonna be a Buick day for me. I'm like, for fuck's sake.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so there's that. I always have to throw some daggers at my wife during the podcast.
You can get away with it because she doesn't watch or listen.
She doesn't know that. She won't even know what we talked about last week about her and shit. I
Have you
tried to
tried to?
tell. I
Have you
told
tried?
her.
Have you tried
Yeah.
telling her the different name every time?
No, she hasn't asked. But I tried telling her that we're like I was making fun of her during the podcast, and all I got was "you an ass." I'm like, all right, thanks.
Oh dear.
Right. So we're gonna call it a day today. But before that, we've got a couple of things to tell you. Is that you can follow us on social media, right? And we are on all the major social media: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find us. You can find this episode also in its entirety, unedited, on YouTube and also on Twitch, right?
Yay.
And as usual, this podcast comes out on Tuesday on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcast. If you listen to this podcast, the audio version, and you want to go ahead and give us a recommendation, tell people why you listen to to this podcast so that we can become a bit more um, foundable or findable. Is that even a thing?
Look upable.
Lookupable. Lookupable. I love lookupable. It actually sounds Greek.
Kind of does, doesn't it? Look upable.
Yes, lookupable. So there's that. You can look upable Jojo on Instagram.
I'm Jocelyn Podcast on Instagram.
And as for me, you will find me there as Mr. Puzzetta. That's MRPUZZETTA. MRPUZZETTA. We're gonna plan some things for you, so don't go away too far. All right, folks. Thank you very much for watching today, for listening today.
Thank you for listening to Kicking and Streaming Podcast. If you found value in our content, please subscribe and share. We would also be delighted to hear what you think of this podcast. So please rate us by writing a quick review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all major social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Join the conversation happening today on our Facebook group.
Yeah. Ciao, everybody.